Hi everybody, I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network.
And I'm Johan Reed with SAP.
And welcome to the latest edition of the Customer Edge. Johan, great to have you here once again.
It's great to be here, Butch.
For people that are first-time contributors here to the Customer Edge, let me remind you what this is all about. This is a live monthly webisode that we bring you from our Pulse Network studios, but it's so much more. It's part of a larger community, CustomerEdgeTV.com. While you're here, click around and find out all about it. You and your customers need to have ongoing conversations and engagement with customers. You know that. This community is dedicated to helping you do that. Campaign optimization, sales effectiveness, social business, customer service, customer experience, customer engagement. It's all discussed here on the Customer Edge. Videos, articles, white papers, conversations, contribute to the discussions, and get involved at the CustomerEdgeTV.com. All right, the topic and subject of this episode, the impact of social media on customer engagement. Talk about it.
So, before we talk about customer engagement, I really think you have to think about the way social media has changed the way that people engage. Because ultimately, customers are just individuals, whether in a B2B or B2C setting. And social media has fundamentally altered the way that people communicate. I don't have to pick up the phone to see what my friends did on their spring break. I can just go to their Facebook feed and I can literally see what all of my friends have done. I can see their vacation photos, I can comment, and I can do that 24 hours a day when I have time, regardless of whether they have time at that moment or not. And so it's fundamentally shifted the way that I think about a conversation.
So social media has changed the way we communicate fundamentally. How's it changed the way we do business?
Well, the same rules now apply to business because people are using these channels and they expect business to now communicate with them in the same way. That always on. They don't want to call a number and press 1 to be connected to an operator. They want to be able to talk to you 24 hours a day. Go to your Facebook page, get the information, ask a question, and move on.
The impact of social media on customer engagement. Coming up in the show, SAP as a case study, the impact of social media on selling in particular, and the latest research. And as we dive deeper into this topic, let's do that right now. Let's bring in Brent Leary from CRM Essentials. The latest research is the 2014 Customer Engagement Index. It's put out by Social Media Today and by SAP. So here's Brent Leary from CRM Essentials. So as we talk more about the impact of social media on customer engagement, we talk with CRM Essentials, Brent Leary. Brent, let's talk specifically about Social Media Today's 2014 Social Customer Engagement Index. Now, this is an annual survey. It's the 4th year. It's a survey that you've been involved with. People don't know about it. Talk about the survey.
Yeah, so Social Media Today, and with the help of SAP, who was the lead sponsor from the beginning up until this point, we wanted to start looking at how companies were leveraging social and mobile technologies, not from a marketing and promotion standpoint, which is still critically important, but really looking at it from a customer engagement, customer service, customer experience standpoint. And so back in 2010, we fielded our first surveys, around 18, 19 questions, just to try to start getting a handle on what the Social Media Today community and the group of great professionals and really leaders in the area of social business, how their companies were integrating social into customer service, customer support, what were some of the challenges, what were some of the what they felt with the social networks, which ones were the most effective, and just getting an overall sense of how that piece, how social integration was impacting their goals from a customer service perspective and the relationship they have with customers. It was 2010, we only had about 118 folks take the survey. Let's fast forward to 2013, which is the 2014 report that was just released. The data came out of our survey from the 2013 time period. But we had over 1,200 people take the survey, which was great. It gave us so much more information, so much better idea of what was going on. But we had 4 years of information culminating in the 2013 survey. And what we found was that there's more emphasis being put on social. There's more experience. There's more integration, not just from a person perspective. So we're seeing integrated teams take place. We're also seeing more integrated processes, and everything seems to be integrating even more so with the overall company strategy with customer experience. So we're seeing a lot of more cohesiveness. We're seeing a lot more experience, and we're seeing more interactions taking place from a service perspective over social channels. And it is impacting the overall goals and objectives of the companies and the people that were taking this year's survey.
So when I look at the 2014 Social Customer Engagement Index that you worked on here, there are so many interesting stats and trends that come out of this. Let's talk about some of the most interesting. A shift to mobile, Facebook still being on top, response time, and how it continues to matter even more and more. Don't let me be the one that says all of these. You tell us, what are the most interesting stats or facts or trends that came out of this for you, Brent?
One of the things that really jumped out to me, and I looked at it from 2010 till this latest one, was there's a lot of emphasis and a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about social media and customer service. And so one of the questions that we asked from the very first survey till this last one was, what percentage of the interactions, your customer service interactions, are actually taking place over social channels? Like Facebook, like Twitter, like anything, LinkedIn, whatever you're using, your own branded communities. And really, when you look at it, I think this year we had about 15% of the folks say that at least 25% of their customer service interactions are, they're coming over social channels. So when you think about it, it's a trend that is easy to see from 2010 to 2013 and 2014. It's easy to see, but when you think about it, the big picture, it's still a drop in the bucket compared to the traditional channels of phone and email, and so although we are seeing big movement, it's still not, from the overall perspective, still not the greatest channels in terms of just sheer numbers and amounts. So moving in the same direction, but big picture perspective, it's still got a long ways to go before it displaces something like the phone or email. The other thing that really was fascinating to me is there's more emphasis on speed. You're seeing companies trying to figure out how they can provide a faster response time. And there's some kind of distinction too that we're seeing and hearing about, from some of the case studies that we went through, that it's not always about solving the issue as fast as possible, although everybody tries to do that. But it seems to be more important to respond as quickly as possible and show that you're diligently working on the issue, whatever the issue may be. So it may not be a case of you solving it right away, but if you can at least respond and show that you're making progress, that seems to be something that customers are looking for. And that's why you're seeing a lot of organizations really working to make sure that their response times are faster than they've been in the past. And I think that's a trend that's not going to be stopping anytime soon. So there's a ton of really interesting things. You're seeing, we call folks that we call the fully integrated companies. So folks that said yes, that their companies have integrated processes from service and social. They've integrated teams. So it's not just the traditional team on one end and the social team on the other. You're seeing some integration taking place. And you're seeing the integration of the strategy. So the social service strategy is integrated in the overall customer service strategy, which is integrated into the overall customer engagement strategy, customer experience strategy at the top levels. And when you're seeing companies that have that fully integrated approach, which is a little more difficult to get to, but taking the time to do that, you see them actually outperforming, or at least they're seeing much better impact, very, very important impact, very positive impact on their goals and objectives. So those are some things that really stood out to me when I started digging into this thing.
So Brent, the 2014 Social Customer Engagement Index that you work with Social Media Today and SAP to come out with, it's the fourth year it's gone on. The stats from the 2014 edition are from the calendar year 2013. You've talked about some of the trends in the 4 years. Let's talk about a jump in just the last year from 2012 to 2013, and that would be in types of social monitoring tools. There seems to be a big difference in the tools that were used just in 2012 to 2013. Explain.
Yeah, that was really interesting and fascinating, actually, year over year. So when we looked at the data from 2012, and we asked a question about what tools are using to monitor conversations and interactions with customers, tools like Radiant6 were jumped off the mat as being the top used paid solution, and it was a pretty wide margin from them to the next couple in the group, but when you look at 2013, Radiant6 had really taken a downturn in terms of the number of folks who were mentioning that they were using it. And matter of fact, you saw companies like Sysomos starting to jump up, Sprinklr starting to jump up, HubSpot starting to jump up, which is really interesting when you think about a company like HubSpot, which is more known for their integrated marketing platform. But companies are using different tools to monitor and track these conversations year over year. And so it was just a almost sort of like a sea change. And it would be very interesting to see what happens in the next year when we do the survey, because if we're seeing this kind of turnover year over year, that kind of tells us that companies are still trying to figure certain things out. They're still trying to figure out their strategies, their processes, and the tools that will implement those processes year over year when it comes to a very important part of social service, which is listening to what customers are saying and trying to get the sentiment and trying to understand how they can better serve their customers. So year over year, just from 2012 to 2013 data, it was fascinating. It'll be really interesting to see if that trend continues or if we start to see a little bit more, everything starting to smooth out and there's sort of consolidating around certain kinds of software.
We're talking with Brent Leary of CRM Essentials. We're talking about the 2014 Social Customer Engagement Index. Brent, let's talk about subscription-based business models. There's been such a change with customer service. You mentioned the speed and this and that. To me, there's been a big change from being proactive as opposed to just reactive, what customer service might have been years ago. When it comes to subscription-based business models, talk about customer service and the experience how it's playing a role in that.
Yeah, to me, this is one of the more fascinating areas. It's as we've seen over the last several years, people, consumers, even businesses are starting to consume products and services in a much different way than they had, 5 years ago. We would typically go and buy something outright, and then we would use it, and maybe we'd have to buy an upgrade, and then we'd be, use it for a while. So we were very used to buying things. And one of the things I kind of relate this to is, of course, everybody is with Netflix or at least some sort of a video streaming service. Well, remember Blockbuster, where we actually used to, pay and go in and get a video and come back and watch it and go back to the store. We're not going to the store as much because a lot of times we're able to subscribe to things on a monthly basis. And so this whole idea of the subscription economy, where more and more services are being consumed for a subscription model where you pay a monthly fee and you use it for as long as there's enough value for you to use it. And so you're seeing more and more consumers take in products that way, and you're seeing more businesses taking products that way. So as companies begin to change the way that they deliver their products and services to fit the lifestyles and the expectations of the customers, it's changing the way that they formulate businesses. So these new subscription businesses are being started in a much different fashion than traditional businesses that were started. And the other aspect of that is they're starting with customer service at the forefront, because in a subscription model, particularly if you don't have a contract, which you're seeing more and more products being offered without a contract, an annual contract. So you're basically having to prove your worth every month, that your value, your service is that valuable to that person to make them sign up month over month. And so now you're seeing these business models, these subscription-based business models, having to put customer centricity and customer service at the center of the model itself. So it's not a case where we build the widget, We get the widget, focus heavily on building the widget. We got the widget built. Now we start to sell the widget. Now we're starting to sell them like hotcakes. Oh, now we're starting to get the phone calls come in. And now we got to worry about customer service. You can't do that in a subscription-based model, because as soon as you put it out there and you're starting to have people come in and sign up month to month, if you don't have service well thought out, well constructed, and well organized and implemented, you might get somebody to sign up on, in April and drop off in May. And that totally defeats the purpose, the win-win kind of value proposition of subscriptions. Make it easy for people to subscribe, service them, keep them a longer time, make them loyal, make them advocates. They bring you new business. That's the way subscriptions are working. So customer service has to be at the center, right at the very beginning of the business model being created. That's why customer service is even more important in a subscription-driven world than even the traditional world.
Brent, Amazon's Mayday button, what is it and how is it changing the game for customer support?
So I bet if you remember around Christmas of 2013, you started seeing a lot of commercials from Amazon with Amy, the customer service person. And Amy didn't come on by herself. It would come on by somebody that had a question about something going on with their Amazon Kindle. They would hit the Amazon Mayday button, and within a couple of seconds, there's Amy. So that's what Amazon Mayday is all about. It's a 24/7 customer service program that is specifically running through the Amazon Kindle. I would assume eventually it's going to run through more than that. But if you have an Amazon Kindle Fire like I do, if you have a question about something related to that device or your Amazon Prime service or subscription, you can. It's a virtual button you hit, Mayday, and within 15 seconds, they're saying 15 seconds. I did it, and it was more like 5 seconds. Somebody pops up and you can see them in the corner of your device. They can't see you, but you can see them, and they can, control your device. And so if they are trying to help you do something, they can actually take control and walk you through it or show you how they can do it. And it's a really very easy service experience. And what I think is going to happen is it's going to put a lot of pressure on. Not everybody can do that. But, let's face it, Amazon has the resources to be able to provide that. But it's going to make everybody else up their customer service game, because you have to be able to start taking advantage of the technology and providing it in the kind of experiences that customers are looking for. So that Mayday button, it's only been around for about 5 or 6 months, but it's going to impact the way customer service and support is done, and really is expected to be done by customers.
So Brent, how about a final thought for our audience? I'm involved in customer engagement, or I'm involved in customer service, either integrating it with my company or my clients or applying it in some way. What should I take away? What are some of the key points I need to take away from the 2014 Social Customer Engagement Index to look ahead going forward in my world?
I think the key that you really have to take away from this is customer expectations for service and better experiences is growing, and it's always increasing. It's never stopping. So you're always going to have to look for ways to improve the way that you service them, the experiences that you create for them, where you create those experiences, be it in front of a laptop or in front of on a Kindle or on your phone or on your TV. That's the other aspect that's coming quick. You're going to be service support folks leveraging their big screens to help people out. So you have to always keep that in mind. You never reach the end with customer service and support and improving it. You always have to look for how technology is impacting the way that customers want to be treated and want to be served. So with that, go through the survey, look at the case studies. We have case studies from Nissan, Discover, T-Mobile, Kimpton Hotels. It's all different industries, really discussing the good, the bad, the ugly of how they've gone about implementing their customer service and social engagement, and talking about how they look at it, what they needed to do, the kind of metrics that they're looking for, and all that basically allows companies to figure out how do they best serve their customers. What are the best ways to go? What are the strategies that we need to bring in? How do we bring it all together? So that's what this report is, and it'll continually be answering those questions and providing that kind of color as we keep moving these things forward.
He is Brent Leary, owner, founder, managing partner of CRM Essentials. You can find him at brentleary.com. Our conversation today about Social Media Today's 2014 Social Customer Engagement Index. Brent, great conversation. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Butch.
I'm Butch Stearns for the Customer Edge. Leary and his analysis and findings of the 2014 Customer Engagement Index. Interesting conversation with Brent. Let's start where he finished, with the Amazon Mayday button. It's gotten so much publicity. It's got an adorable woman there who's there at your fingertips to press the button. Brent says it's a game changer. Is it?
I think it is. But I think it's a game changer in an interesting way, because all we really want is when we want to get help, we want someone to answer on the first ring. Nobody wants to call 911 with a problem and get please hold or press 1 to continue, right?
Hopefully not.
We want to get that help right away. And I think the point about it that he made, saying it's not about getting it right on the first time. It's being prompt and getting that, picking up on the first ring. And I think that's really what this game changer becomes. It's integrating help directly into the product and making it instantaneous. Like what we had before, we had the whole press 1 for the next step.
Right. Yeah, that's something that Brent kept going back to, was the speed. As we talk here on the Customer Edge about the impact that social media has had on customer engagement, and we look at what Brent was saying from the Customer Engagement Index of 2014, he kept referring back to speed and response time. And he had a quote that said, it's not so much that you have to solve the problem right away, but it's more important that your response time needs to be almost immediate. Consumers demand it now, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, and if you think about the way things work on social, you post a picture and then a little while later you go in and you see, ooh, who's liked it, who's responded, what are the comments? You're out on Twitter, you tweet something, you're expecting to get a response back in a reasonable amount of time. And so social, again, is just helping facilitate the things that we expect anyway in a real face-to-face interaction where we're seeking to get immediate feedback.
The other thing that Brent said, and one of the things I found interesting, was companies and brands that are incorporating social media into their strategy are seeing deeper and more meaningful results now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is consistent in our customer base as well. I mean, companies that aren't just sort of buying a social listening tool and putting it off in the corner, the companies that are really adopting social and incorporating it into the fabric of their marketing campaigns, their customer service efforts, and taking social data and applying that to their decision making at the executive level, those are the companies that are really seeing the dividends that social can pay.
You took copious notes during the Brent interview. What else did he say that resonated with you?
I think definitely the force multiplier effect of strategy. I think that, again, the whole idea of answering on the first ring, and social to me is really the opposite of that IVR, of that push 1 to continue. And his point about the shift in the social tools, that we're seeing turnover in the tools that are being used by companies to monitor, I think that's a really big sign that most companies haven't figured this out yet. And I think that's also correlated well to what he said about social not being the largest channel. The traditional channels of email and phone and web tickets, I think those are still predominant, but social's coming, it's rising. And as it rises, the companies have to move to figure out how to handle it, how to scale, what are the right tools. And again, if we go back to the strategy comment, I think that for me is the most critical takeaway, is companies that are ahead of this, thinking strategically about social, they're the ones that are going to be best positioned to capitalize on it.
He is Johan Reed of SAP. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. You are watching the latest edition of the Customer Edge. We're about to hear from 3 industry experts from Las Vegas. Last month we did Customer Edge live from the MGM Grand at CRM Insider, and we're about to hear from them. So I want a brief answer for you as a prelude to this about the effect of social media on selling. So when we talk about social media and for business today, social business, the effect of social media on selling, what is your short answer to that right now?
Short answer, my short answer is, number 1, marketing is the new sales. And it really becomes about engagement versus what we typically think of as selling. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit more after the segment.
So let's talk about social selling. As companies continue to incorporate and integrate social media into their business strategies, it is having a profound effect on how they market to and how they sell to people. For some key points on the subject of how social media is affecting selling, social business, if you will, we turn to recent conversations with 3 industry experts that we had on site at CRM Insider in Las Vegas last month. They are Peter Kim, industry analyst from Constellation Research, Heidi Tucker, VP of Global Alliance for Inside View, and Barry Traylor from CSO Insights. Here are their insights into social media and the impact it has on selling.
One of the ways that social media has changed selling is it gives you other opportunities on ways to sell. I think it also gives you additional responsibilities in how you sell. To pick up the phone and call somebody and not at least have looked on LinkedIn to see if they're listed there. And if they are listed there, how long they've been with a company, what school they went to. I mean, they're just basic stuff. It's just price of admission now. It's a responsibility.
Selling's completely different because there's so much information out on the web that as much as 70% of buyers have already made up their mind what they're going to buy before they ever engage with a sales rep. So if a sales rep wants to have any chance of being differentiated from their competitors or actually winning a deal, they have to work harder to be smarter and more relevant and really understand the business issues of their prospects so that they can deliver meaningful solutions and have better business conversations.
There is no aspect of our lives where technology hasn't crept in and changed the way we live and thereby changing the way we work as well. So consumers are increasingly finding a voice and seeing that they can engage brands and have more of a dialogue rather than a one-way communication where they didn't have much choice in the past. So it's a pretty exciting time.
The opportunities for salespeople that take the time to understand the business issues and the relevant events that are affecting their prospects and customers help them differentiate from the other salespeople that aren't willing to take that time. And so when salespeople do that, then they can have much more meaningful business conversations with the right person at the right time.
The good news is that today, most businesses have figured out social media, right? There's a reason to be on board. We've seen the maturity of social media platforms. So Facebook with over 1 billion monthly active users, for example. But now we're in a phase of the market where businesses need to operationalize how they're approaching social media and what they do with customer engagement along the way. So a lot of opportunities still out there. And the big question is, how do I incorporate what I'm doing in those channels with everything else I do behind the scenes as well?
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so it's like, what do you actually know about me? I get all these LinkedIn invitations, I'd like you to join my network. It's like, tell me one thing. 2 would be better, but tell me one thing that you know about me, about why we should be in a network together.
I mean, nobody likes to be sold. I can't stand to be sold, and nobody does. So when we talk about things like social selling, which we actually spend a lot of time at Inside View talking about social selling because it's kind of a buzz term, but at the end of the day, it's not really selling. It's really using social tools and social media to improve customer intimacy so that you can establish that trust and have better customer relationships.
From the business side, if you're a marketer and you're trying to figure out how to really make a social media channel matter, it's about tying it into and integrating with existing campaigns and existing business metrics and operations, right? So not just, am I getting a lot of likes and followers and fans, but what kind of sales am I driving? Am I showing a lift in customer acquisition? Am I getting better customer retention results? So that's the way to make social media relevant, is by tying it into metrics that matter.
So Barry Traylor, Heidi Tucker, and Peter Kim on the impact that social media has had on selling today. Johan Reed, Butch Stearns here in studio at the Pulse Network for the Customer Edge. So the impact of social media on selling, it's really changed the way sales are done fundamentally because it's more of a soft sell now. The pre-sale is more of the sale, isn't it?
Yeah. the thing about, if we think about selling as the always be closing model, that model is increasingly becoming very dated on social. Social is about listening, it's about engagement, and it's not a place you can dive in and start bombing people with a product pitch. You have to take a step back and you have to listen first, and then you have to start engaging by contributing to a community with something meaningful that may answer questions or promote conversation. And that's fundamentally changing the way that sales reps have to approach their job.
So you mentioned in the lead into that feature that marketing is the new sales. You just commented on that, but expand on that a little bit more.
So marketers have been using social for a while now, even in the B2B space. If they're working on LinkedIn promotions and campaigns. And so what we're seeing is that salespeople are locked out of the buying cycle until customers have gone through a lot of the thinking and decision making. And so marketers have traditionally been focused on, how do I influence that decision? How do I influence this person to consider us, to go and talk to a salesperson? And on social media, that's even more critical, because it's the marketer who has understood how to leverage that channel and position without being so forceful on the sales pitch side of it. And so those marketing skills have to transfer now, because the individual salesperson has to do those same types of activities on social media. And I think we're going to see a trend where salespeople have to act more like marketers, and they have to work together with marketers much more closely than they may have in the past.
A comment from you about Peter Kim's comment, which I thought was interesting. He said, from a business side, if you're a marketer, you need to make a social media channel matter, but the way to do that, it's about tying it in to your business strategy. He never shied away from that. He kept getting back to that point. He kept talking about tying it into your campaigns and tracking results. Your thoughts about that?
Absolutely right. And that it's the same kind of discussion that Brent was having earlier, which is it's weaving social into the fabric of your business. It's not treating it as, we don't treat a phone interaction or an email channel as a separate part of the business. But yet so many companies have a different small group of individuals who are off to the side doing this social thing. It's kind of an experiment. The companies that really take the strategic view and integrate it into both their campaigns and their marketing efforts, as well as their customer service efforts, and try to make social the strategy across the entire life cycle of the customer, they're the ones who are going to win ultimately.
One final comment from you about a comment that Heidi Tucker made, which I thought was interesting. She said directly, nobody likes to be sold to. But when we talk about social selling, at the end of the day, it's not selling at all. It's really using tools and social media to have better, stronger relationships.
Nothing's changed, Butch. It's, the early merchants standing in the town square, right? They had a relationship. If you think about the old model where you had the butcher and the baker and the greengrocer, you could go there, and if you left your wallet at home, they knew who you were. There was a relationship, there was trust, and those things, the relationship, the trust, the intimacy between people, that's the currency on social. And that, I think, is directly to the point that Heidi is making.
Okay, so that is the impact of social media on selling. Now let's switch gears and talk a little bit about SAP as a case study, if you will, on how SAP uses social media to affect customer engagement. Quick comment from you on that. How does social media impact customer engagement when it comes to the way SAP? Give us some of the inside view here, how SAP thinks.
Well, it's interesting. So SAP is one of the world's largest software companies, and a lot of people, even internally, a lot of people have said for a while, sort of, are people really on Facebook looking at stuff about SAP? And the answer is yeah. We have strong Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn channels. We're doing some really interesting things. And Margot is going to get a lot deeper into this, but for us, it's really about engaging at every level. Because as an enterprise software company, we're so often engaged with a purchasing person at another enterprise. We don't often get to interact with the end user. Social is great. Our customers, our end users, can go out and tweet to us, and we'll respond. We'll have a dialogue with them. Maybe they need help. Maybe they have a question about the product. So for us, it's a really great channel to get to get a lot more intimate with our customer.
So, for more on how SAP uses social media to impact customer engagement, we turn to Margaret Legman from SAP. Margot, how are you?
Hey, Butch, I'm doing great, thank you.
I'm doing great too. We're glad to have you here. Now, you are the Director of Solution Management and Social Media Strategy for SAP. What's your role within SAP? What do you focus on?
Well, yeah, Butch, in fact, that is my role, specific to SAP's customer engagement solutions. So I don't cover social media and solution management for all of SAP, but specifically our solutions that appeal to VPs of sales, CMOs, directors of marketing, and customer service professionals. And in that role, I manage our social media strategy, understanding how we engage in our social media channels, what types of content that we share and promote through those social media channels, and how we analyze all the feedback that we're getting from customers and influencers through the social channels. And some of that is done in my role through our thought leadership and blogging programs, as well as in developing and building online communities and having those conversations throughout the communities.
So, Margot, as we sit here today and talk about the impact of social media on customer engagement, let's start with this question. The relationship of social media and customer engagement. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure, Butch. Well, social media isn't a strategy. Social media really is a cultural shift in how customers experience your brand. And that's something that you want to be able to deliver on, your brand promise, no matter if it's a social media channel or any other channel. So when you look at customer engagement and you think about all the things that you want to accomplish to engage customers in any channel, really, you're talking about reliability, responsiveness, convenience, and topics like relevance. And so in order to be able to deliver on those aspects of your brand promise, your social media has to stack up. So don't just think about building a Facebook page or starting a Twitter handle. Think really about where your customers are, how they may want to be engaging with you, and be sure to be a part of those conversations and be relevant. And those are the ways we think about the relationship from social media to customer engagement.
Let me say this. It seems to me, I could be wrong, but tell me if I am, that customer engagement is the how and the what you do. The social media part is how you think about it.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Butch. In fact, I think there's also a big crossover when you look at content and you look at your brand. When you think about the type of content that will attract your audience in social media, you want to have content that is contextually relevant. You want to have content that helps provide awareness of your company and your products and your brand. You want to provide content that is engaging, that can achieve things like click-throughs and shares and comments. And you want to avoid doing things that would just sort of add a little noise to the conversation. You want to be more a part of that signal and not a part of the noise. The other thing is, I was recently reading a blog post by Michael Brito, and Michael's with Edelman Research. They're, I would say, sort of an agency think tank, and he talks about great content to provide in social has to do with your brand and your brand promise and your messaging and your positioning. But even more valuable is when you bring in those third-party validations from influencers and from your customers and from your advocates. And when that becomes part of your content, it's even that much more powerful to share in your communities.
So let me ask you a follow-up to that. You sort of started going down this road, but what's the true impact of the right strategy and customer engagement mixed together? You mentioned that when the two meet, content and your brand, is where you start heading towards the impact. What's the true impact of it done right?
Well, social media plus nothing equals nothing. Social media alone is not going to provide any of the impact that we're looking to achieve. I think as I mentioned, getting those influencers in the conversation, getting those advocates and customers to speak for you and be a part of the community in which you're having these conversations with other potential customers, that's really where you start to see an impact. And impact can mean, certain metrics such as how many page views, how many impressions. It can be how many downloads your content leads to. It could be, a lead, an L1 or an L2 in your lead funnel. So some of those are the ways that we look at the impact. But I think equally important is just think about if a customer is looking to reach out to you and your brand. Maybe in the past, the customer would post online somewhere the question, what's a great customer service solution for the banking industry? And maybe you would go ahead and send a link back to your website, in our case, sap.com, for example. Well, that was kind of a very rudimentary approach. And these days, what we would do, and sort of the modern marketing way of looking at it, would be to think of a more nuanced and a more relevant, very personalized way of participating in that conversation. And that could mean sending that interested customer to a community or to a forum, or perhaps a video of a customer testimonial, customer of yours using a product or a solution, and then getting other validation around that solution. And that's a way that I would point a social customer today, and that shows that the impact of that is far greater, and there's much more engagement.
Excellent. We're talking with Margaret Legman of SAP, Director of Solution Management and Social Media Strategy. Margaret, off the top, you mentioned that social media is simply brands engaging with their customers. Let me ask you about being socially engaged. How can we influence how our brands are perceived in the context of being socially engaged?
Sure, Butch. Well, in the past, what would be the way that you engage with a brand or a company or a product in the past? You would either walk into a retail store and take a look at it, or call an 800 number. Maybe you'd get a catalog in the mail. Well, today it's a lot different. Obviously, there are a number of other ways that we can engage. And I think one of the key things in social media is trust. So the way that you develop trust in social media is essentially by being human, by being responsive, by being very helpful, by owning the either issue or problem, or owning the conversation and being able to provide something valuable to your customers. So I think today customers are going to decide how and when they're going to engage with your brand. They're going to decide which method. And, maybe even beyond the Facebooks and the Twitters, we have so many options today, from Instagram and WhatsApp and Snapchat, in so many ways, that in fact, you just want to let that experience be uninterrupted and make sure that your brand is going to be the signal above the noise, and really providing a beacon amidst the fog, so to speak, where a lot of resounding truths are able to be put forward for your customer who's engaging with you.
Right. So you mentioned trust. Like respect, trust is not something you just gain. It's something you earn. You mentioned ways that you can become trusted: by being human, by being responsive, by being helpful. Let's talk about making engagements more meaningful and how you do that, because when you do that, that's when you start to earn trust and establish trust, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. So ways that we're doing this at SAP today are really by understanding who's leading some of these conversations, who are some of the leading thought leaders, who are some of the trusted advisors and third-party influencers in these conversations. And you learn that as you start to become an author of blogs, as you participate in blogging communities and other third-party online communities, as well as your own communities. you start to see who's commenting, who's engaging, who's sharing, who's giving you feedback, positive or negative. Once you learn and you're able to accept and really digest all of that feedback, you can start to make some real changes. Looking at some of the social tools out there, we have our own SAP Social Media Analytics by NetBase, which we use, and we can really see for a very specific product, what are some of the likes, what are the dislikes, what are some of the behaviors, and some of the attributes, and really learn, take that feedback and bring it into our product roadmap and be able to adapt our next generation of solutions based on that very valuable social feedback.
So Margaret, as we continue to talk about the impact of social media on customer engagement, you've done a great job here, both giving us an overview of the relationship of social media and customer engagement, rolling your sleeves up and talking about the true impact of it and how to do it, building trust and all those things. How about some case studies, if you will? Who's doing this well? Who's building trust with their audience, engaging them in the right way, and really building a relationship, an ongoing dialogue, trust, and respect with their customers?
Well, Butch, there are a number of companies out there, and I'm thinking one that comes to mind, and I was a very long time customer of a company called T-Mobile, who a lot of us know. T-Mobile has been engaging in social channels, social as a customer service channel for a long time. And I know Brent Leary speaks about the Social Customer Engagement Index recently put together by Social Media Today, where companies like T-Mobile are really rising to the top in terms of some best practices. They're engaging, I believe, around 30,000 customers a month, and they're owning all of the issues that come up. They're very human in how they respond. They're very apt and able to own issues that come up. And the last point of interaction is going to be with T-Mobile. There's no buck to pass to anyone else. And they've really gotten a lot of accolades out in social circles for their ability to respond fast and completely. And I've tested it out myself and engaged with T-Mobile, and I've gotten responses in under a minute. So it's really impressive. They're personalizing their dialogues, and they're making customers really feel liked and loved.
Yeah, I think they're a great example because you can't get in a car now or drive around or even go on television without them doing mainstream ads. But years ago it was you led with your budgets and spent money on mainstream ads. What they really did was build up their social media and customer engagement. And now those ads are drawing attention and making me want to go to their social channels and engage with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And there's another company that comes to mind, Proctor Gamble. You may have seen during the Winter Olympics, they had some beautiful stories about moms, and they took a look at their customers and thought, what's behind all these great athletes at the Olympics? It's really a supportive family, and moms have been there to take youngsters to all of their skating practices and skiing lessons, and the whole salute to moms was really had a big emotional appeal. And then they tied that storytelling back to social and invited customers to engage and tell them their story about their moms. And all of that, the emotional appeal and the impact was really, really valuable for them. And I think made the Olympics a lot more personal.
So Margot, let's finish with this. How do we know if we're successful, if we're on the right track with our efforts on trying to make the impact of social media meaningful on customer engagement?
I mentioned earlier, Butch, that we obviously use social analytics to gain some understandings and see areas where we can improve, and also look for ways to optimize. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is paint a 360-degree view of our customers. And really, we want to be those, the reliable, the convenient, the responsive, and the relevant brand, product, and company out there. We're doing this through social channels, but obviously there are many other channels to engage, such as the web and mobile and various others. And so at the end of the day, we're looking to achieve what we do in social across the company and in other channels as well. And I think ultimately we want to be channel agnostic, and the experience that our customers have with SAP is the same and unified no matter how they choose to engage with us.
So again, she is Margot Heiligman. She's the Director of Solution Management and Social Media Strategy at SAP. And Margot, I can say this with confidence because we've worked together long enough now. You not only do it, you live it. So you like when people are reaching out to you and engaging with you. How do you prefer that people do that?
Sure. Please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'm M. Heiligman on Twitter, and through SAP CRM. Our Twitter handle is at SAP CRM. And you can find SAP overall as a company on LinkedIn company page. And you can find us on Facebook as well at SAP CRM. Thank
Margot,
you.
great conversation. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Butch.
Some interesting comments from Margot Heiligman from SAP about how SAP uses social media to impact customer engagement. So how do you? Your comment about that.
You know, it's funny. We've used social media before social media was a term. You know, we had the SAP Developer Network for a long time.
Millions strong.
Exactly, and today it's been rebranded the SAP Community Network because we're trying to broaden that and take advantage of the fact that more people are using social as an interaction channel. But frankly, this is something that we've done for a long time. Just people didn't think of it as social. But you know, I think it's great. It brings our customer base together, and it gives the world the opportunity to see what SAP is doing and what people are doing with SAP.
All right, some final takeaways. Let's get 3 of them from you, Johan. The impact of social media on customer engagement. What's your biggest takeaway from this show, from all the contributors we heard from all that was said? What's your one biggest takeaway from the impact of social media on customer engagement?
Well, if there's one thing that I could take away from all of this, it's the importance of having social media being part of your strategy. If you just treat it as a standalone, you're not going to see the results, and you're going to wonder why it's not working for you.
And then as far as the impact of social media on sales, we talked about a lot of different points. Heidi, Barry, and Peter talked about a lot of different points. One key takeaway from the impact of social media on selling today.
It's changing the sales conversation. It's not about going in and trying to assess, do you have the budget? Do you have a need? Do you have a compelling event? It's really about engaging with your customer, finding out what's important to them, listen first, participate in the communities where your customers hang out, and build that credibility and intimacy. Those are the currency of social media.
All right, and let's finish with the crystal ball question, the future. What impact will social media continue to have on customer engagement and on social business, on all of this going forward?
Well, I think the impact question is a good one, and I would encourage our viewers to go out and download a copy of the Social Customer Engagement Index. There are a lot of statistics out there, and if you go through those statistics, the one thing that becomes really obvious is that this is just the beginning. Social is growing in presence, and you know, in terms of what the future holds, I don't know what new social networks are going to be out there in 2 years, 5 years, but what I do know is the pace of change is going to evolve very quickly. And so now is the time to act. You haven't missed the bus. Get on and start planning this, incorporate it into your strategy, and you'll be ahead of the curve when the time comes.
Always fun hanging out with you and having these conversations.
I love it, Butch. I love being here with you.
All right, Johan Reed of SAP. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. We thank you for being a part of this episode of The Customer Edge, and we encourage you to click around the community, customeredgetv.com, find past episodes, contribute to the conversations, be a part of The Customer Edge. We'll see you next time.